slightly different aspect of what his sport is all about. Now, the other two guys on the bike, they're going to be sending themselves out of the ramp. This gentleman right here, all his tricks are going to take place strictly on the bottom of the ramp. And it's a very technical, very unique style of riding. It's known as flatland riding. Now, over the next 25-30 minutes or so, you're going to see this guy walking all over that bike of his. He's going to be doing tricks on the front tire, on the back tire. He'll be making the frame of that bike spin around underneath him when he's out there in the middle of these tricks. And every now and then you may actually see him ride that thing upside down. Now, what it's all about, you want to go out and pull up the various tricks as you see him doing right here. But no matter how tangled up you get on that bike, no matter where those feet wind up, you want to find your way out of each and every one of these tricks, get the bike right side up, get your feet back on those pedals without touching down on the ground. Sounds pretty simple, but trust me, it's not. A former world champion and a three-time X Games gold medalist. He's out of Little Rock, Arkansas. Put your hands together for Trevor Meyer. Getting it started for us out here this morning. Well, jumping in right now, the one guy getting the job done for us on the skateboard out here this morning. He happens to be one of the veterans in his sport, and he is strictly what we call a vert skater. If you don't know too much about action sports, that term vert is short for vertical. Basically means he's strictly a half-pipe rider when it comes to shows or competition. He's been competing for a long time, turned pro at the ripe old age of just 20 years old. When it comes to competitions, he's known for his consistency. You've seen him on TV and things like the X Games as well as the Dew Tour. From down south out of Tampa, Florida, give it up for Anthony Furlong. Back to the BMX editing. You saw Flatland BMX just a couple of seconds ago. We'll just show him another ramp right here. He is a multifaceted rider when it comes to competitions. He too turned pro at a very young age. As a matter of fact, he got his first pro contract when he was only 16 years old. He wasn't even out of high school yet, and this guy was getting paid to travel all across the globe and ride that bike of his. Now, he's mainly a vert rider, but he also competes quite a bit in the park or the street class when it comes to major events. One of the very first riders to have ever successfully landed the double backflip. He's out of Chicago, Illinois. Make some noise for Koji Kraft. Dropping in right now, the one guy getting the job done for us on the inline skates. He happens to be one of the most dominant competition skaters in the history of his sport. Anytime this guy steps on a ramp at a major event, you can pretty much bet good money this guy's going to be walking away with a top 3 finish. That's because he's all about the spin moves. You'll see him doing things like flat spins, 540s, 720s. You may even get a 1080 out of this guy a little bit later on. He too is a 3-time X Games gold medalist out of Kobe, Japan. Let's hear it for Ito Yasutoko. And last but certainly not least, rounding out the roster here this morning, our final BMX rider. He is also one of the veterans in his sport, and well, he is strictly a vert competitor when it comes to the BMX world. Now, he's known for a couple of things when it comes to contests. One, he's known for his super smooth style. Number 2, he's known for his combination moves. He can also do tricks going in both directions. Guys learn how to ride a bike going one direction when they're up in the air these days. Over the last couple of years, the sport's kind of progressed where guys are doing tricks in both directions. They call those opposite variations, and he's also the master of the backflip 180. He's out of Ocala, Florida. Give it up for Jimmy Walker. Well, there you go. You got a chance to meet the fellas, just a little bit about him. So right now, I'm going to cut them loose and let them do their thing. And the way we run our show, what we call it jam session. These guys can get out here, take as few or as many runs as they want. And like I told you at the top of the show, they like to hear you making some noise out there. So come on, let's get loud for Trevor and the rest of the crew. Right now, you have some fun. Because that's how it works. They hear you guys screaming, yelling, and carrying on out there. Let you know y'all are having a good time. But well, when that happens, it gets the adrenaline pumping. And then you never know what these guys are liable to throw down for you out here this morning. Now, part of my job, I get to introduce you to the riders. I get to give you some stats on them, give you a reason to care about what they're doing. But the other part of my job out here this morning, I get to talk to you guys about something pretty important, and that is about the dangers of tobacco. As I mentioned at the very top of the show, we're part of an action sports production company. We do shows and competitions like this all year long. With these high school tours, as I mentioned before, we've been doing this for 12 years. We do this twice a year, every year. Once in the spring for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then we do a fall tour. It's about 10 to 12 weeks long. You guys are stop number 4 on a 6-week run going all over the Northeast this spring. We started it off down in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, back in March, here in the Philadelphia area, then we were up in Long Island, your guys' neck of the woods here this week. Then we go to Providence next week, and then we wrap it all up in Boston. As I mentioned before, a completely free event that we provide to the schools that we go to throughout the span of our travels. And again, that's why we have the Marines out here. They've been involved with us since our fall course of 2008. So don't forget to stop by their booth today. Try your luck at that pull up or that chin-up challenge. And our college partners, and the main reason we get to come out here and talk to y'all in the first place is because of this group out of Washington, D.C., known as the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. They've been around with us all 12 years that we've been putting this tour on. Now, they're one of many anti-tobacco organizations here in the United States, but the people of the campaign, their whole goal, their drive in life, they're trying to reduce the number of youth smokers that we have in this country, hence the title, the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. Now, as you guys all well know, it's against the law for the tobacco companies to market or sell their products to people under the age of 18 in this country. Yet, every single year, those tobacco company executives, they try to figure out sneaky little subversive ways to get around those laws. They try to guerrilla market. They try to make that stuff look cool. Why do they do that? Because those tobacco company execs, they look at you guys, the youth of today, as tomorrow's potential customer. They don't care about your health. They don't care about your well-being. They care about one thing, and that's turning you into a lifelong customer at a young age. If they're successful in doing so, they're making money. They're lining their pockets. That's why we have organizations like the campaign. They're trying to right that wrong. They're trying to fight fire with fire. Use events like this to show you guys a good time. Give you the facts, and hopefully you guys will make the right decisions when it comes to tobacco use. Now, some of the things I'm going to talk about here in the show today, they're common sense issues when it comes to the world of tobacco. Some of the things I get into here in a couple of minutes may be issues you've discussed in health class that you got on the subject of tobacco. And then again, some of the facts that I tell you here today, some of these stats are going to seem a little ridiculous. They're going to seem exaggerated. Well, I guarantee you, I'm not embellishing any of the stuff that I tell you here today, but I encourage you, you don't have to take my word for it. You can get on the campaign's website. You can do a little research on your own and back these facts up for yourself, as well as find out plenty of other things about tobacco, but I don't have any time to go into out here today. The campaign's web address is tobaccofreekids.org. That website is a wealth of information when it comes to the subject. And about 85% of the things that I tell you here today, I learned off of that website. I'll be repeating that web address a lot throughout the course of the show, but if you happen to forget it, it's also written on some of the signage on the barricades here. And like I said, I encourage you, get on there tonight, do a little research on your own. By the way, this is the part of the show where you should pay attention, because remember, when it's all said and done, we're going to do that whole anti-tobacco trivia thing, see who's paying attention to what I'm talking about out here this morning. First fact I'm going to give you here today, first stat, this is the worldwide death toll on average every single year because of tobacco use. Now, when I say tobacco use, I'm not just talking about smokers, I'm also talking about people using chewing tobacco or other forms of smokeless tobacco products. A lot of people tend to think that those things are a safer alternative to smoking. They are not. The smokeless tobacco products, they're just as dangerous, just as deadly as the smoking products. So keep in mind, anytime you hear me use the term tobacco use out here this morning, I'm talking about people that are habitually using any sort of tobacco products whatsoever. Worldwide death toll, it's a pretty big number. 4.8 million people, that's million with an M, 4.8 million people worldwide every single year are dying off just because of their tobacco habits. Right about now you may be thinking to yourself, hey, you know what, there's a lot of people on planet Earth. 4.8 million, that's not that big of a number, that's not that scary, that's not that impressive. So I'll break that down for you, try to put that into perspective. Basically, one person dies every 6.6 seconds all day long every single day of the year. Think about that. Every 6.5 seconds, somebody somewhere on this planet is dying off just because of their tobacco habit. In the amount of time it takes Koji here to do this run on the vert ramp, 3, maybe 4 people somewhere on planet Earth have just died off just because of their long-term destructive habits. Now, that's just the global death toll. You want to find out how bad the problem is right here at home? This next number I'm going to give you, this is the United States death toll on average every single year because of tobacco use. Again, just like that global number I gave you, this is smokers as well as chewers. Remember, people that are habitually using any sort of tobacco product whatsoever. And by the way, this does not cover secondhand smoke. I haven't even gotten to that yet. We'll talk about that here in just a couple of minutes. Within our own borders, every single year, you've got over 400,000 people that are dying off just because of their tobacco habit. Over 400,000 every single year in this country alone. Now, again, just like that global number, you may be thinking to yourself, hey, a lot of people in the United States, 400,000, that's not that scary, that's not that impressive of a number. So again, I'll break that down for you. They estimate that about 1,200 people die every single day in the United States alone just because of their long-term tobacco habit. Now, if you happen to have